All right, we're ready to roll.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second of our six uh, clinics, NBOA varsity clinics. Again, Quinn Morris, Dr. Morris is with us. If those of you who don't know, if you're wondering why I refer to him as Dr. Quinn Morris, it's because even more importantly than being a great high school and NCAA men's college basketball official, and even more impressively, he actually does hold a PhD, a doctorate degree in mathematics. When I think it's higher mathematics, isn't it? Like something special.
Sure. It's
What do
not
you,
not the useful kind of doctor, as my wife likes to remind me.
well, he practically owned Appalachian State as a result of it, so it's got to be pretty important. So you can see Quinn. You won't be able to see me because of an ineptitude from my end. Hopefully we can get this fixed before the next clinic. But also joining us tonight will be Wyatt Howard again. Wyatt's at his son's soccer game where he'll be joining us when he gets done with that. We're going to go ahead and get started with a discussion of delay of game rules, and Quinn is going to jump in on that right now. So Quinn, if you would just sort of summarize for us or review the rules pertaining to delay of game.
Sure. So delay game is one of these things. So it's under Rule 4. So anytime you're looking for something in the rule book, Rule 4 is a good place to start. It has all the definitions. So you go under delay, and that's Rule 4, Section 47. There are only five types of delay of game. So the first is interfering with the ball following a goal. The second is a throw-in plane violation. So an opponent of the thrower putting some part of their body through the inbound side of the throw-in plane before the ball has been released on the throw-in pass. The third one is contact with the free thrower or a huddle of two or more people in the lane by either team prior to a free throw. The fourth is failure to have the court ready for play following a timeout. And the fifth is when the ball is not immediately passed to an official when the whistle sounds. Now it's important. We have a tendency, I think, to try and add things in here sometimes. These are the only five delay of game scenarios. So if you're going to issue a delay of game warning, it has to be one of these five scenarios. If a team is issued a warning for one of these five delays, then that warning is the only warning that they're going to get for the entire game for delay a game. If the same team commits that delay or any of the other delay scenarios later in the game, then it will be a team technical foul. Not charged to a player, not charged directly or indirectly to a coach. It is just a team technical foul. So award two shots to the opposing team, uh, put the ball in play at the division line by a throw in. Um, it's again, I mentioned sort of it's important not to add things in here. So, sometimes you might have a player who sort of slams the ball down, and maybe lets it go up a little high. Well, either you're going to call that unsporting or you're not going to call it anything at all. It's not a delay a game. He can't delay the game if he bounces the ball straight up and it comes right back down to him and the ball's ready to be put in play. So don't invent other delay of game scenarios. Um, when when we have a delay of game, so we have a situation, again, it's an important time, and we talked about this in the last clinic, important time to make sure we're practicing good communication with the table. I generally go over and say, hey, we've had a delay of game warning I usually give the number. So a delay of game warning to 32 white, for whatever the situation may be, for a throw-in plane violation. And I usually ask them to go ahead and write the time down that we're having it. So, 3:28 left in the second quarter. That way, if there's any question later on, we can go back and say, yes, we have it written down. It was this time. This is what it was. Again, in the situation where we have another one later and we need to have a technical foul, then it, it's just much better documented. Um, in the situation where you have a delay game warning, you've had a technical foul. If it happens again, it doesn't reset. It's just another technical foul. There is only ever one warning for delay in a game. You can never have, well, per team. So a team cannot receive more than one delay of game warning. Now, again, that said, you never have a situation where a warning for one team constitutes the warning for the other team. Each team gets their own warning, and then beyond that, then each subsequent delay of game violation is a technical foul. I think that's most of it. I think Chuck has a particular situation where it is sort of a slight exception to this rule, where we handle things a bit differently.
That's excellent, Quinn. Just to touch a little bit on one of those, I'm going to touch on two of the delay situations. The first one I want to touch on just a little bit is the interfering with the ball following a goal. Let's not nitpick that. But if the team that has scored a basket is deliberately, or it doesn't even have to be necessarily deliberately, but if they are putting the other team in a position where they can't play the ball back in bounds as quickly as they want to, then that's the situation that we want to be aware of and we want to deal with, and that's the situation that warrants a delay of game warning. If it's a marginal thing, you don't really feel that it constitutes a delay of game or warrants a delay of game warning, but it's getting borderline. Don't tell players that they can't touch the ball. Don't tell them, don't touch the ball. Don't yell that out. Don't even say it, because there is no delay of game warning for touching the ball. The delay of game warning is for delaying the other team or interfering with the other team's ability to put the ball back in play. That's really what we're talking about. I think you would agree, Quinn, that is primarily the lead official's responsibility to
Correct.
assess. Would
Correct.
you agree?
I agree.
And just to sort of reinforce the point that Quinn has already made, in this case, it's generally really a good idea to have the player's number. If you're going to give a delay of game warning or a technical foul, if it's gotten to that point, have the player's number, because a lot of times the coach will not have seen what warranted that delay of game warning, and he'll ask which one of my players did it. And it's probably not a good idea to say, I don't know. It's probably a really good idea to be able to say, to give the number. I see that Wyatt's joined us. Wyatt, did he win?
You're muted, Wyatt.
At that age, it's just about having fun.
Okay, that's the right attitude, Wyatt. That's great. The second of the delay of game warning, I'm sorry. Before I get to that, there is a kind of a weird situation that is dealt with in the case book that we need to remember. And that is this: if the clock is running and we have 5 seconds or less remaining in the game, a throw-in plane violation or interfering with the ball following a goal is to be ignored. If the official doesn't ignore it and blows his or her whistle, you have no choice at that point then but to call a technical foul, even though no previous warning has been issued. The reason for that, and teams used to do this intentionally. I know of several situations where this happened, in the game situations where teams scored, they have no timeouts left. They score, they're still behind, and they want to stop the clock so they can set up their defense for the ensuing inbounds throw-in. The only way they can do that is to intentionally commit a throw-in plane violation or an interfering with the ball after made basket, get the official to blow his whistle and stop and issue the warning and stop the game, stop the clock. The delay of game warning wasn't put in for that purpose. That's kind of a misuse of that. To avoid that kind of scenario, they put in this rule that in that situation, 5 seconds or less, ignore it. You just let the clock run out. We've even had situations where they were so blatant about it that the team that scored grabbed the ball out of the bat after it comes through the basket, grabs it and literally threw the ball into the stands to force the officials to blow a whistle to issue a delay of game warning. Well, at 5 seconds or less, for sure, don't blow your whistle and start your walk off the court because the game's going to be over with in 2 or 3, 4 more seconds, or blow your whistle and call technical foul. Quinn, I think you've got a couple of questions for some of our officials.
Yeah, so the first question here is for Tamario Baldwin. So the question is, what is the penalty for reaching through the throw-in boundary line plane and touching or dislodging the ball while in possession of the thrower? So no, you'll notice that is not one of our 5 scenarios for delay of game. So what's the penalty if that happens? Second question is for Kevin Atkins. And the question is, what is the penalty for an opponent contacting the thrower during a throw-in? Again, notice not one of our 5 delay of game scenarios. So what is the penalty if the opponent contacts the thrower during a throw-in?
If you would, both, with respect to both of those questions, the people that have been asked, if you would just send me your email response, during the week, during the week, that would be greatly appreciated. And along those lines, if there's anything that we say during any of these clinics that is confusing, which would probably be something I said, or you feel is misstated, or you have a question about it, send me an email. And we'll address it. Likewise, if you've had plays or situations that have occurred in the past that you'd like to have discussed at one of these clinics, send me an email and we'll take care of it. The other delay of game scenario that I want to touch on is when the ball is not immediately passed to an official when a whistle sounds. It used to be that when this occurred, a lot of times officials would issue a delay of game warning for that, and that was inappropriate at the time. Your only option by rule was to assess a technical foul, which we very rarely did. Instead, we did other things that were outside the rule book, like tell the player to go get the ball or something like that. So they changed the rule now, they did it last year, to make it consistent with make it easier for us. By allowing us, in the first instance, giving us the option, at least in the first instance, to issue a delay of game warning to the player. And then if it happens again by anybody on the same team, it would be a technical foul. And as Quinn said, it would be a team technical, not assessed to the player, not assessed to the head coach. Here's a great example of one where I think it's so blatant that this warranted a delay of game warning. Go ahead and run it through. Okay. This crew consists of 3 they're good officials and really nice, much nicer than me. All 3 of them. So we've called a foul here, And I think it's obvious that the player who is called for the foul is displeased with the call. So that's sort of checks the box right there. I mean, that's number one. And then he takes the ball and pretty much just takes it down to the other end of the field. Go ahead, please. He's done. He's fed up. He's gonna come over to his bench and let him know how fed up he is with the call. And he's turned us into a ball chaser. And we're not paid to chase balls. Right, Wyatt?
That's right.
Wyatt, you gotta talk to me, Wyatt.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, thank you, Wyatt. So this is a situation where, clearly it was, an act to show displeasure with the call. And clearly it delayed. We gotta go get the ball. We got two officials looking for the ball. And we probably could have pre-gamed this. And by the way, I don't like the way we picked that ball up either. Anyway. We probably could have pre-gamed this and said, hey, look, this is a rivalry game, intensity, players are gonna blah, blah, this and that. This is a great opportunity to go ahead and let everybody know who's in charge here, who's in control of the game. So, you know, it's hard to criticize officials in a situation where they're being the nice guys, but this is a situation where, at least in games that you're working for me, I would want, in any game where this occurred, I would want a delay of game warning issued in this situation. It's a very obvious situation for delay of game. Wyatt, Quinn, any disagreement on that, or anything else you want to say about that?
I was just going to add, I think this is a good spot here if we wanted to exercise a little bit of preventative officiating. And a lot of this depends on where we are in the game and the time and what's been going on. But I just think right here we're coming past I think this is number 4 right here. This might be a moment where we could say, number 4, if that ball doesn't get back here pretty quick, I don't think I'm going to have a choice but to issue a delay game warning. That might get number 4 to yell at his teammate like, hey, get it back over here. Right. This is early in the game. You want to maybe giving him the benefit of the doubt, maybe, whatever you want to try to avoid it, that this is a place we could potentially exercise a little bit of preventative officiating too. Maybe it's not preventative, but it's officiating that might quickly remedy the situation, as opposed to necessarily resorting to a technical foul, or sorry, to a delay game warning. Um, but regardless of how you choose to handle it, I mean, I agree with Chuck. This absolutely, you could absolutely hear a delay game warning would be justified if we want to go that route. But whatever we do, it has to be addressed. If we just are going to let this happen, then we're going to, we're slowly losing sort of credibility here if we allow players to do this without without the situation being addressed in any way.
Right. And to give it context, and I don't like to use these clips necessarily to be critical of a particular player, but that particular player was a chronic complainer during the entire basketball game. The last thing I will say about this, I don't care who in the crew would issue a delay of game warning in this situation. It doesn't have to be the calling official. It can be anybody in the crew that sees that take place. The protocol is to blow your whistle and make sure that the table, and as Quinn has already said, make sure the table and the coaches know. We don't have to go there and make it a big secret. We don't have to go there and talk to the coaches. Just report it, just like, as far as I'm concerned, you can report it just like you report any foul. Just announce it to the table, make sure they understand what you're talking about, and make sure the coaches heard that this team has been issued a delay game warning. We're going to move to the subject of active shooting in just a moment. So Wyatt, be ready.
All right, so here we go with the first active shooting play.
Okay, Wyatt, we're into the topic of active shooting. The first clip, if you would, first just give us just a little brief commentary on positioning and coverage on this play?
Yeah, we got a transition play, and in transition, center is going to take the pack of defenders coming down the floor. Lead is hustling to get into position, and trail comes into the picture really fast. So everybody's moving and working hard to get into a good position. The foul, it's an obvious foul. And I think center is the one who does have the best look, and that's where we want the whistle coming from. But this is a type of play that if for some reason the center doesn't have a whistle, this is obvious that
So somebody
someone,
has to have a whistle, right, Wyatt?
somebody's got to have a whistle. And I think all three could have a whistle if for some reason the center doesn't have a whistle.
Okay, that's good. And I like the fact that the lead official came down and tried to close down right away. Might have actually could have done even more of a close down initial position, but the pretty good coverage on that play. The rule that we're looking at here, Wyatt, for you to kind of put in context of the call that was made is when does the active shooting begin by rule? And the rule is that the active shooting begins simultaneously with the start of the try. Well, that begs the question, what's the start of the try? The try starts when the player begins the motion, and you're going to hear this several times now during these clips. The try starts when the player begins the motion, which habitually precedes the release of the ball. So let's look at this play again, Wyatt. He ruled this on the floor. What do you say, Wyatt?
I agree. This foul is on the floor. The player had not started their try. They had not started their habitual motion prior to the illegal contact, and so this is definitely on the floor.
We talk a lot of times, I don't know if this is y'all don't need to answer this. Both of you are college officials, so you know the answer. I don't know if this is a monitor, if you can review this or not by monitor, but it doesn't matter to me. The only reason to say that is because anything that you could review by monitor in a college game. I think that the crew is well served in a high school game if there's any question in anybody's mind about whether this was in the active shooting or not, let's get together on the floor and let's get it straightened out. So Wyatt, you've already said that as far as you're concerned, all three officials probably had a somewhat of a look at this play and could have had a whistle if the slot did not. But the slot has pretty much dictated that there's not going to be any conversation about this, right? I mean, he's pretty emphatic. He wants this on the floor. Right away, he goes, it's going to the floor. He points like 3 or 4 times. What do you say? What if I'm coming to you on this play, Wyatt, and saying, hey, Wyatt, what do you have? What did you see on this play? What if you were the calling official? How would you want me to handle that if I feel like it should be ruled a shooting foul?
On this play, it's going to be a hard sell to change it because the calling official is so emphatic with it. Um, in general context, if you're coming to me and we don't have like an emphatic one way or the other, whether it was shooting or on the floor, I'm expecting you to bring me some sort of solid information, something that I didn't see or missed, something that's going to make me go, oh, okay, yeah, let's put that on the line. Or no, you're right, let's put it on the floor. Some kind of solid information. If you're coming to me with just like a question, you're probably not helping a whole lot. We want solid info to come in to change anything like this.
Very good. Quinn, let's go to the second clip and Wyatt, I'll give us the rule and ask you to put the play in the context of what I'm going to recite in terms of the rule. You want to go through with it first? That's the second clip I was looking for, I didn't think we showed that when we were rehearsing. All right. The active shooting begins simultaneously with the start of the try. When does the try start? When the player begins the motion which habitually precedes the release of the ball. If an opponent fouls after a player has started a try, the player is permitted to complete the customary arm movement, and if pivoting or stepping when fouled, may complete the usual foot or body movement in any activity while holding the ball. These privileges are granted only when the usual throwing motion has started before the foul occurs and before the ball is in flight. A player is trying for goal when the player has the ball and in the official's judgment is throwing or attempting to throw for goal. It is not essential that the ball leave the player's hand, as a foul could prevent release of the ball. Why? Talk about this play in context of what I've just recited.
All right, so looking at specifically just the rule right now, the question is, does this player start their habitual motion? And I would say that yes, this player has started their habitual motion for a try. I think it fits perfectly with the definition of being allowed to finish the customary arm movements, the step or the pivot. And then, if we're going to think about plays like this, being aware of all the players on the floor and where everybody is at, what else is this player doing on this possession? There's no pass to be made. Like, there's no one there to pass to or something. This guy is obviously going towards the goal. And I'm going to guess that by this point in the game, especially, this is a regular move that this player does, some sort of step through to get to the lane for a floater. So that's why it's really important to pay attention in warmups and to get our cues early in the game so that we have a really good idea of what is habitual motion for players. But this one, I think, is definitely shooting.
You guessed right, by the way, Wyatt. I watched this whole film. I would say this, he weighs off the shot, as right there. So the official that he's going to be switching with should see that. If that were me, I would go to the calling official before he can get to the table, and I would say, I had a great look at that play. I had him going up when he got hit. It's your call. Especially because I think that when I say that, I probably would also say turn around, because I'm telling you right now, they're going to be lining up. We don't show this all the way through. They're lining up to shoot free throws on this play. They think that it's an active shooting foul. And if I'm the calling official and Quinn, you came to me with that information, I probably wouldn't even turn around. I'd probably just go ahead and change it. But if I didn't, by the time I turn around and saw everybody lined up, I say, yeah, Quinn, thank you. The other thing I do a lot of times, if I'm the calling official, before I wave it off or point to the floor, if there's any doubt in my mind, as I'm coming across, I'm probably coming across and saying to one of you guys, if you're my partner, hey, I've got this on the floor. What do you have? I'm just going to ask you. If you tell me, Chuck, I had a great look at that play, I had him going up. I'm just going to go ahead and I haven't said anything preliminarily anyhow, so I'm just going to go ahead and put him at the line. Or if you tell me, no, I have him on the floor, great. Then you confirm my call. Anybody disagree with that?
No, I think we get in a hurry sometimes to make a decision when we don't have to be. And so we decide that we've got to come out and emphatically wipe something off or emphatically score a basket, when if we took a beat, we might be able to get some information from our partners, get some additional context from the players to help us make the correct determination of whether they were in the act of shooting or not. So I think, being slow about those mechanics. Obviously, there are times where we really need to emphasize it. But, on this play, if we just post with a foul and start going to the table, that gives us a second to see, are all the players lining up? Is my partner, going to come and say, hey, I had him go? Like, I might gain some additional information on my way to the table to help me make that decision.
It's called taking the opportunity to process or reprocess a play. Why? There's not a whole lot, I don't think, to talk about in terms of positioning and primary and secondary on this call, but there is a little bit. So go ahead and give us your thoughts on the mechanics here, the court coverage.
So coverage wise, it looks like we're in a good set. I like where we are. The center looks like they're stepping down to get an angle. The ball comes across, which can make this really difficult because it is a point of intersection. And so we see that as soon as this play starts, the trail backs out and then works to get a good angle. If you can
Yeah,
run it.
so the clip is not cooperating with me right this second. There we go.
So the trail has a really good look at this play. And I would say that even the lead probably has a really good look at this play as well. Because the lead can see that contact. The center is not going to have a great look. I mean, context clues foul, but a whistle from the center right here is probably a guess. But I don't mind the whistle coming from trail here. And it really is right in the middle that they could all have a whistle. But I think what would be really helpful right here is, again, like we already talked about, we don't need to be so quick to wipe. Wiping, don't be so fast. Like, just hold right here for a second. Let's see what happens. Okay, now let's go report our foul. And then the last piece is, if you're a non-calling official, somebody's got to know the status of the ball. Somebody has to know, because if you come to me and tell me that you've got it shooting and we're going to change this call, the next question is, okay, did the ball go in? Somebody's got to know.
Excellent. Show that one more time. Do we agree that this play starts from the slots primary?
Yeah.
It does.
Okay. This is a great example, I think, Wyatt, of a play that starts in your primary, but then curls or turns away. I don't know that it curls away in this play, but it turns away from the slot and opens right up to the trail, don't you think?
Right. Yeah. Like it starts in center's primary, but the center doesn't have a good look when the illegal contact happens. So trail, I would actually say, is probably a little too engaged. Maybe they probably don't need to be on the ball right away as soon as that drive starts, but we do need to be aware of it. But it is sort of point of intersection. And I'm going to guess again in the fourth quarter, benefit of the doubt, that this player's been doing this. These officials are ready for it. But the lead or the trail are the ones who have probably the best look at the play. But we don't have any double whistles, which means they're all being very disciplined with what they see and trusting whose call it is.
Very good. Next clip. This is a really interesting play, everybody. Quinn and I and Wyatt spent quite a lively discussion about this play. This is one that Wyatt picked out initially. And again, let's put this in the context of the rule. When does the act of shooting begin? Starts when the player begins the motion which habitually precedes the release of the ball. If an opponent fouls after a player has started a try, the player is permitted to complete the customary arm movement, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Read the rule, everybody. There's a lot of meat in it. So, Wyatt, let's talk about this play, and this was ruled on the floor also. Let's talk about this play in comparison to the others.
All right. So this play in comparison to the others, I say, is the most 50-50 call of the plays that we're going to look at, that I think you could genuinely, as a calling official, rule this either on the floor or shooting. I don't think you're going to get a lot of pushback if you say it's on the floor. And I think you would be fully justified by rule by saying she had started her habitual motion. And again, the way I like to think about these plays, just like I pointed out on the other one, what else is this player doing? She's not passing. There's nobody to pass the ball to. And I think, like, it looks like she's looking to gather to start some sort of shooting motion. But the center's on an island on this play. They're by themselves. The center is the only official that can make a call on this play. No one else is there to help. This is a completely on your own, make a call. So obvious foul. and then you have to decide pretty quickly, are you putting this player on the line to shoot one, or are we saying it's on the floor?
Very good. Quinn?
Yeah, I mean, I think Wyatt said it perfectly. All those factors he talked about are the kinds of things we want to go into our decision making. And I think the key really is, because Wyatt said, and I agree, like you could end up going either way with this. The key is if somebody asks you a question, you've got to be able to justify it by rule, right? So, Wyatt would might go over there and say, hey, look, she had nobody else. It looked like she was slipping to the left to put a shot up, like she was already in that motion when the contact was made. So I've got her in the act of shooting. Not much a coach can say to that, right? I mean, they might disagree, but there's not really a lot they can say if you give them that explanation. If you decide, you could also go over there if you decide to put them on the floor. You might go over there and say, I felt like after the contact, she went back to her right hand and then decided to go up with the shot. And so I didn't feel like the shot began. I didn't feel like she really started her motion until after the contact occurred. Again, coach might disagree with you, but what are they going to say? And again, to point Wyatt made earlier, although this is a turnover, a transition play, but once you see players do the same thing a few times, usually you start to figure out, okay, yeah, this is what she does, and so I know she's getting ready to shoot when she gets fouled, uh, or normally when she does this, she's gonna kick it out or do whatever. Not that that's happening on this play, but again, all those sort of context clues can go in to help you making a correct determination.
Very good. We've got one more of these types of plays to show, one more clip, and then I'm going to have a general comment to make about the four clips. So if we'll go to the fourth clip, Wyatt, this one is also interesting.
All right. We got a drive to the basket. We've got the primary defender beat and then reaches around to try to hit the ball, to try to swipe it away. And the player goes up and shoots. The calling official puts the player on the line to shoot free throws. I agree that this is starting the continuous motion or the habitual motion of a shot. The player has started to gather the ball for a try, and then the contact happens, and the player releases the ball for their try. And I think this is easily put it on the line. I don't think there would be much room to say this is not a shooting foul.
What else is the player going to do with the ball?
He's beat his only defender. Right.
I think the general comment that I wanted to make is that in the past, we erred heavily on the side of it's not in the act of shooting. We would rule on the floor over and over and over again when in fact the player was in the act of shooting by rule. I think that over the last 4 or 5 years, because we've talked about this so much, that at least we, and when I say we, I'm right now I'm specifically referring to the NBOA varsity staff. We've gotten much better on our rule, much more accurate and consistently accurate on our active shooting rulings. If in doubt, you want to play like this, if there was any doubt in your mind, rule in the active shooting. What else is the player going to do with the ball? Rule in the active shooting. Want to talk just a minute, Quinn, before we get to the last two clips and discuss. I'm going to talk a little bit about the concept of continuous motion. I've done this in the past. I don't think I've mucked it up too badly. It's a little bit confusing, but guys, if I do muck this up, just jump in. Okay, continuous motion applies to a try for goal, but it only is significant if there's a foul by a defensive play. That's the only time continuous motion is significant. It's the only time we need to worry about it. It only is significant if there's a foul by any defensive play. Any defensive play during the interval, which begins when the habitual throwing movement starts to try and ends when the ball is clearly in flight. So, if there's a foul by any defensive play between the time that the habitual throwing movement has started to try and the time when the ball is clearly in flight, in that interval of time, if there's a foul by any defensive player, continuous motion applies. What does that mean? Well, it means that if we have an off-ball foul during a shot attempt, the act of shooting and continuous motion rules apply when a defender commits the foul during the shot attempt. Any defender. So if A1 is in the act of shooting, when a defender fouls A2, the goal will count if the ball goes in, even if the ball was still in A1's hand when the foul occurred. As long as A1 had started the habitual movement for the try, when the foul occurred by the defender, that goal was going to count if it goes in. On the other hand, if A1 is in the act of shooting and A1's teammate commits a foul, with an off-ball foul, and then the ball goes in the basket, that goal cannot count unless the ball has been released before the foul occurs. So continuous motion only applies when it's a foul by a defensive player. If it's a foul by an offensive player, off-ball foul by an offensive player, the ball has got to have been released in order for the goal to count, if the ball goes in. Which leads me to stress a point that we have stressed over and over and over again through the years. If you're going to call something off ball, which is a good thing if there's a foul off ball, it's a foul that needs to be called, make sure you know what the ball is before you call a foul. You've got to know, we've got to know, and the calling official is the only one that can really make that judgment. A crew member can come in and try to help, but the crew member is going to be guessing because you might know when the whistle blew where the ball, if you're the off official, you might know where the ball was when the whistle blew, but you don't know when the foul actually occurred. There could be a lapse of time. So hopefully that makes sense. Dr. Morris, did I screw that up?
I don't think so.
Okay, good. If you don't think so, then Wyatt,
Did I miss something, Wyatt?
you don't get to say anything, Wyatt. Wyatt, do you have anything to say? Go ahead.
No, you're absolutely right. I think that the most important thing is for everyone to be aware. So if we're calling off ball, it's going to be something big and it's going to be something obvious, but it's also going to be something that no one else is really paying attention to because everybody's looking at the ball. So something that I would do if I have a foul close to a shot release, a defensive foul close to a shot release, then I'm going to ask the covering official, had they released the ball when I blew my whistle, if I'm not sure. Some plays are obvious, the ball's clearly in flight, but if it's close, I'm going to ask, had she released the ball when I blew my whistle? And then that's going to help, know exactly where we are as far as timing of things. Because we have to
because you have an offensive foul.
Right.
You want to know.
Right. For offensive
away.
foul, we got to know if she had started shooting or if the ball had been released. But it's also important, not to get into it, but it's important to know that for potential bonus free throws. But yes, you're absolutely right.
And it's also important to know if I'm going to call an illegal screen, say off the ball, and the ball's already been released for the shot, maybe I don't call, I understand if the contact that you're getting ready to call a foul is really going to affect the play. If you know what the ball is, you'll be able to make a better assessment as to whether or not it's a whistle that you need to put on the play. Okay, Quinn, let's take a look at what is now the fifth clip.
All right. So, all right, so we have a player shoot a three-pointer here in a moment. All right, we have contact and a foul called.
So
So,
we've talked a lot, Quinn, about when the act of shooting begins, when the try begins, but we haven't talked at all about when it ends. So this gives you an opportunity, I think, to discuss this play in the context of the rules that apply to when a shot ends.
so typically, a shot ends, or the act of shooting ends when the ball is in flight. The one exception to that is for an airborne shooter. And in the case of an airborne shooter, the try doesn't end until the airborne shooter returns to the floor. So if we watch in this clip, we clearly have an airborne shooter, right? We have some contact, but now we've got to decide if that contact occurs before or after this shooter returns to the floor. So we actually see here. So if I think if we watch the C here, who's the covering official on this play, C is in good position. Um, as soon as he realizes that this player is going to pull up, right, even takes another little half step down, he's already making sure because he knows right here, like at the time we see this pass materializing, one of two things is going to happen, right? Either this guy's going to maybe take a dribble or two and pull up for a three, or he's going to try to because we have a screen coming here, he's just going to try and take it to the basket. So he knows that a three-point shot's a possibility. He makes sure to stay below the shooter. And then once he realizes that, yes, it's definitely going to be a three-point shot, he even takes another step to open up that angle a little better. We can see he's looking back to referee this. Um, and so we have here quickly a determination that we have a foul. And then it might be a little hard to see, but he pretty emphatically then signals three, indicating that he does have this in the act of shooting. Um, but again, in order to make that determination, you have to be able to determine whether the foul occurred before or after the player returned to the floor. If, let's say we had made so in this case, he determines that the foul occurs prior to the player returning to the floor. So we have three shots. If we determined that this player was fouled only after returning to the floor, in that case, we would just have a normal common foul. Now, we can see here at this point in the game, we're in the bonus. So in this case, we would line the players up and we would shoot two shots. Um, if we determined that the foul occurred after he returned to the floor.
And in that case, if the ball had gone to the basket, we're going to award the three-point goal and put in the line to shoot two shots, right?
Correct, because again, the ball was away when the foul occurred. So we would award the 3 points and line him up to shoot two more. Um, it's it's just we've got to know there's a lot of there's a lot going on. It's all happening very quickly, but we have to be able to sequence those events in order to make the correct determination there. Um, the other sort of thing, I mean, just in general on processing these plays, right? So anytime I'm thinking about sort of a 3 point shot or a near 3 point shot, um, the first thing I want to know is the shooter behind the line, right? So I'm usually starting at the feet, then I'm immediately going up to the point of contact. So in this case, right, this defender is closing out pretty late, right? So we have like sort of we have a screen here that he goes underneath. So by going underneath this screen, he's got a long distance to close out on the shot and he elevates. So I'm immediately first looking up at the point of contact on the arm, and then I'm going back down to his landing space. So I'm going sort of down, up, down, right? Um, so I want to make sure both that there's no contact on the arm, or see if there's contact on the arm, and also determine then whether he takes away his landing space as well. Um, the other thing I think we have to have an increasing awareness of is whether the shooter does anything unnatural to draw that contact. So if the shooter, comes, sticks a leg way out to the left to draw contact, right, then that's not going to be a foul, right? If the defender was just going to miss him and now the shooter has kicked his leg, way out to initiate that contact, then we can't have a foul on the defender anymore. Now the offensive player has initiated that contact, and either we need to deem it incidental, or we, in a really egregious scenario, we could call an offensive foul, although I wouldn't generally suggest that. Um, so these are all, again, all things we have to process just on this one play. Anything else I need to
No, that's
enter
good.
there?
Brian, I'm gonna make a general comment here and say, we've talked over and over and over, we talk a lot about not splitting hairs on plays, right? And um, I think that in this case, what I would say about not splitting hairs is if it's close, if it's a close, you're not really sure whether the player has returned to the floor or not before the illegal contact occurred. Rule that the player was still in the act of shooting.
Yeah.
Because, you agree, Wyatt?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the only way for us to be able to determine if he was in the act of shooting or not, or if he had to return to the floor, is if we slowed it down, slow motion, and zoomed it in, which
Right.
means that's too much. That's splitting hairs. If you can't catch it in real time at real speed, then you need to go with probably shooting.
And the reason for that, in my judgment, I think Quinn and Wyatt both will agree, is, as we just said, if that ball had gone in the basket, we're gonna award 3 points for their successful three-point attempt. And then we're gonna put him to the line to shoot two. I think in that situation, because we're gonna rule that he was no longer in the act of shooting when the contact occurred. I think that if you do that, when you do that, I mean, if you're right, you're right, but you better have your game management, your best communication skills, coming out of your toolbox, because you're going to have a heck of an explanation that you're gonna have to be able to give to the coach. He ain't gonna, and he or she is not gonna like it at all, because we now have the ultimate penalty. I mean, it can't get much worse than that, right?
Right.
Okay. Anything else that you want to say? Dr. Moore sort of stole your thunder on, a little bit that you
All
might
right.
have wanted to say about positioning, Wyatt. He apologizes. He gets carried away sometimes, but he can't help it. He's got this degree and he wants everybody to know that, he's got a doctorate. Go ahead, Wyatt. What do you got?
I would just say that the center we need to do our work sooner. Their positioning is too high originally on this play. We need to be lower on this play. Like, what are we doing up there? We're not really helping. We're not in any better of a look. And now we have to adjust very quickly to get a look. So we get a good adjustment and we stay open, but we need to be more in our dependable position to start with and then do our work earlier. Like we should feel this play coming much sooner to move faster. That would be the only thing I had.
Good. Anticipate plays. That's good. All right, Dr. Morris,
All
we
right.
got one more for you.
55-55, 14.6 seconds left in overtime in a state championship game. There is no bigger, there are very few bigger moments in officiating that we've got to be 100% on. And in particular, we've got to be 100% on the major game deciding plays, right? If there is an off ball screen 40 feet from the ball handler, we don't need that. But we got to know what's going on with the shooter, and everybody's got to know. At this point, it's not, oh well, that's so and so's primary, and I'm just gonna like we've got as a crew, we've got to be 100% at this moment in the game. So let's just watch this play through first. All right. Now, um, we have an absolutely, I mean, just a great shot by the player in black here. I can't tell the number. We have a great shot, goes in, game ends, everybody's cheering. That's great, fantastic. If that ball hadn't gone in, this crew would have been absolutely ripped to shreds. Okay. Because the player who makes the three-pointer is fouled. Okay. So if we watch this play through, so right here, we're at when we first start out this play, okay, there's a possibility right here. Maybe there'll be a steal and they'll go to the other end and score. But now as we start getting down 5 seconds, that now there's that chance is dwindling. Oh, it's all coming down to this shot. Um, so the first thing I would say is that the C here, I think at this point especially, I mean, he's not really refereeing up here, and he's just sort of refereeing out in the middle of space here. I'd go ahead and assume we're going to have some sort of shot, and I want to be closed down a bit more at that free throw line extended. So right here, right? So first of all, notice we're gonna have a three-point shot again, right? This is actually the wrong three-point line. So he's actually I mean, this is the men's college three-point line. So he's well outside the three-point line here. Um, but again, I'd like to see slot down a step, have a little better look through here. Um, Now again, that player is retreating, and now we have a pull up for a jump shot. We have a closeout, right? So first thing I notice is on this closeout, the player is getting pretty horizontal, right? Closing out at him. It's not a fully vertical closeout. And also they go airborne back towards them, right? So right now, right, this player is getting horizontal, jumping out towards them, and sorry if I can just scoot this forward a little bit, and comes into that player's landing space right there. This player went pretty much straight up and down. Okay. This player comes out, gets a foot in their landing space. They come down, go to the floor. It's a foul. I think too often we overthink it. It's a foul. Okay. I think that's 11, White. Number 11 knows it's a foul. You can see he tries to, after he makes the contact, he tries to turn away and stay vertical, like, oh no, I sort of missed him. Um, because he knows it almost, I mean, and this is a thing that sort of, at least on the men's side, they talk about now. I mean, when that player goes airborne on a closeout and turns away like that, it's a pretty dead giveaway that they've committed a foul and they know it, because they're sort of hoping that by turning away they might fool you into not calling the foul. This is a foul. It's a foul 2.3 seconds into the game, and it's a foul with 2.3 seconds left in the game.
Well,
If
the one you showed earlier was a foul. Why isn't this a foul?
exactly. Um, we have to call this. If that ball doesn't go in the basket, we're in really big trouble here. Um,
Yeah, Quinn, and I would say this, White, I think you agree with this. It doesn't matter. You can no call this or you can call this. Either way, whichever way you go, you're gonna catch, if that ball doesn't go in, you are gonna catch whichever way you go, you're gonna get yelled at. There's gonna be a huge discussion, huge argument. You can't call that foul in this situation. How can you not call that foul in this situation? You're gonna get yelled at. And a wise official once said a long time ago, if I'm gonna get yelled at one way or the other, if I'm gonna get yelled at, I wanna be right. So be right. The supervisor well, I'm telling you right now, when this film goes in, if he misses this shot on this no call, when the film goes in, the supervisor cannot back you up on the no call. He can't back you up. If you call the foul, he's got to back you up because it's a foul.
I think
He might say, over a beer afterwards, geez, golly, why didn't you just let this game go to overtime? But when he has to make his public announcement, he's going to say, yeah, we missed that call. That's exactly what he's going to say.
I
right?
think sometimes, and it happens all throughout the game, which is why we do the same thing at the end of a game. Sometimes we want to treat this like some marginal contact on the way to the basket. And we sort of think, well, I don't know if there was a lot of contact. Let me just see if the ball goes in the basket. You can't do that on these plays. This is a foul, whether the ball goes in, whether it doesn't go in, again, irrespective of what time is left in the game. And the more we get in the habit of treating it that way, and we just, I mean, here, all the C needs to do, and I'm sort of giving the C some grief because this play comes over. But at this point in the game, the trail is equally responsive. The trail has nothing else to watch. The trail can see that, and the trail there's there's 2.6 seconds left. There's not going to be a rebound. There's not going to be there's not going to be any of that. So we've got to have at least four eyes on this play. It's going to be hard for the lead to see much, but we need to have at least four eyes on this play, and somebody's got to come and call this foul. At this point in the game, we've just got to be right.
Well, the trail took the play off. I mean, once the play left the trail, he decided he's done with this play. One thing I'd like to, well, not like to, one thing I'm going to add here, interject is an instruction and from me to everybody on the NBOA varsity staff. I want the slot to have primary responsibility for all end of quarter, end of game, shots as to whether or not they get off on time. And I say primary because as Quinn and, Wyatt have both said, everybody's gonna have, should have an opinion. But I want the slot to have primary responsibility. I know that that is not the NFHS mechanic. I know it is not the NCHSAA mechanic, but it is the Chuck Eats mechanic. I think it is the best mechanic for high school basketball. So that's what I want. That's what I expect. I would like the slot. It would be nice if the slot could also be opposite the table, but I don't care whether the slot's opposite the table. Now, if there's an opportunity, when we get late in the game clock to, 15 seconds, 14 seconds, 12 seconds, if we can make a rotation at that point that needs to be made, don't force it. But if there's a rotation that can be made to get the slot opposite the table, don't miss that opportunity. If we already have the slot opposite the table, don't move him or her at that point unless you absolutely have to. Once we get to 10 seconds though and below on the game clock, just stay where you are, regardless of where the slot is. Just stay where you are in terms of rotations. I don't know what you guys do at the college level on shot clocks, whether you go into a lockdown mode at some point in the shot clock. But again, at the high school level, there's so much transition that takes place potentially late in the game clock that I think that's the best way to handle it. Any question about that, Quinn or Wyatt?
No, yeah, just let me add in there. There may be some of you going, oh, well, Chuck says we're supposed to do this, but I'm gonna da 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 da. Look, I just wrote myself a note here. Hey, in Chuck's game, he wants the C to take he wants C to take the last second shot. I think Wyatt will probably agree with this. Whatever level of basketball you work, however high it goes up, when I'm working a game for Chuck, I referee the game the way Chuck tells me to referee. When I work a game for Greg Bennett, I referee the game the way Greg Bennett tells me to referee it. If I referee a game for Jamie Lucky, referee it the way Jamie Lucky tells me to referee it. And if your goal is to advance, whether that's in level, in number of games, in quality of games, in whatever that metric may be for you, my suggestion would be just do what your supervisor tells you to do. It's really not that complicated. If you will just listen, they will usually tell you what they want, and to the extent that you can do that, do it. I'm not losing a lot of sleep over the fact that Chuck has said to do something different than the NFHS mechanic because the NFHS doesn't give me any games, and Chuck gives me some games. So I'm going to do what Chuck says.
I appreciate that. just a reminder, everybody, of one little quirk in the rules. If the clock is stopped and a player catches the ball on a throw-in or after a missed free throw with 0.03 seconds or less on the clock, that player can never be considered in the act of shooting. That applies if we're have a throw-in or we're shooting free throws, so we have a stop clock with 0.03 or less on the clock. Once that throw-in, when the throw-in is made, if the player catches the ball, or if the free throw is taken and the player catches the missed free throw, you cannot have a shot. Cannot be considered the act of shooting. So in that situation, when I want everybody, whoever, I don't care, everybody has primary responsibility on that play. Whoever sees the catch, kill it. I have a game clip. I don't have it. I saw it posted by a school that I assigned for, but I didn't assign, it was a game that I didn't assign the crew to. He's very proud of it. He ran an inbounds play on a throw-in with I can't remember now, 0.03 or 0.02, can't remember which. They ran a little play under their basket. The guy, beautiful throw-in. Teammate catches the ball beautifully and lays it in and scores it, and the crew quite casually counts the basket. And the coach is very proud of, oh, he's posted all over Facebook and everything. Yeah, we designed this play and they executed it perfectly. That can't count. The basket can't count. Somebody in that crew had to come out and wave that thing off, but they just walked off the floor as casual as could be. That's the rule. You know, you can like it or dislike it. It doesn't matter to me, but the NCAA I think actually the NBA spent a great deal of time with stopwatches and whatnot studying this, and they said it is physically impossible to get a shot off in that circumstance in time. Wyatt, anything to add before we unmute yourself, Wyatt, and tell me if you got anything you want to add before we leave?
No, I'm good.
Gwen,
I'm great as always.
good night, everybody.